Hello everyone. In today's video, we're going to add some sample data into imse Lab that will allow us to try out some of the new features and sections and perform some of the new tasks that you can do. This will all be contained in the imse Lab demo PDF, and this has all of the sample data that I will be using in this video, so you can follow along with me and you can pause, rewind, and look closer at both of our screens to make sure that we're doing everything together correctly. And we can jump right in. On the first page, we're saying add a class by clicking the plus sign under the imse Lab logo in the toolbar on the left, so that's right there. And then I'm going to be switching from the PDF to Lab kind of often. So let's set up our screen so that we can do that rather easily. And then you can copy and paste straight out of the document, but I'm just going to type everything in. Going foundational skills. Assessment dates are optional, so we don't need to put anything there. Let's pick red like the sheet says, and let's set our course materials to Orton Gillingham Plus. The way that this works is that this is totally dependent on your training or your materials. If you are trained in both OG Plus and Morphology Plus, both of these checkboxes will be available to you. But if you are only OG Plus trained, for example, this box will be grayed out and you can't click it, and vice versa. If you're morphology trained only, you will only be able to select morphology materials. In my setup, in my account, I'm able to choose both, but let's choose OG Plus for this particular class, or whatever it is that you have. And this will allow us to filter down lesson library and assessments to only what we need to see. We're going to save that. We're going to be taken to our new class. Our grade is shown, our level is shown here. You can click on this to edit the class, or you can click up here to edit the class after that. And then let's create a second class right away so that you can see what the difference is, other options, and how that actually just looks in Lab, right? So let's go back to the plus sign. We're going to call this Tuesday intervention, and that's totally a lot of people's situation where you will have an intervention kind of situation going on where you would need a separate class for that. We're going to set that to level 1, and here we're going to put in assessment dates, and no matter when you're watching this video, put in yesterday as your first, today as your midterm, and tomorrow as your final. And what we're going to do is we're going to just see how that affects some of our lists. We're going to click on green for the color and save that. As you can see, this gets added to your toolbar with the color that you just designated, with the abbreviation you designated. When you hover over that, you can see the full name and everything, and see part of its name to edit in the secondary toolbar. But again, if we take a look at the settings we just gave it, our midterm assessment dates will affect the assessments list. So in this left-hand toolbar, you'll see level 1. That's what we chose for this class. The benchmark that is selected is midterm. So notice how that is selected for us, and that is totally based on the fact that today is a midterm date. If we go back to our 10 a.m. where we didn't set anything at all, what's going to happen is when you go to assessments, the benchmark will be set to all. So you'll see every single assessment available to you in foundational skills at the same time. Whereas in Tuesday intervention, since we set a date, and it falls between the ranges, of course, when you go into assessments, midterm is selected and your list is much shorter. So the goal of that is to just make that list very focused for you so that you don't feel like you have to do more work than you actually do. At any point you can change that, and if you need to go back and look at old scores, of course you can toggle around, or if you don't want to look at it like this and turn it right off, you can just take the assessment dates off, but it's all there for you and convenient for you. This is also available when you look at an actual student's assessments, which we'll do in a moment. But the point of being able to have assessment dates in here is to serve the correct list of assessments for the term that you are in. So let's go back to our first class, our 10 a.m., and start to add our students. So we're going to add a total of 5 from the Students tab. and add a student is in the top right. As you can see here, you can set a reading level for every student individually. So we have a level 1 student in our foundational skills, and you'll see how that affects them. All right, so that is enough students to try out everything that we need to. For our student that is level 1, when you click into their profile, you will see on the top that they are designated a level 1 as opposed to their classmates. If we go back and look at a foundational skills student, it will show foundational skills. So you will be able to look at their profile. Again, the interventionist or anyone you're working with can see the differentiation between your students that way, and work with them accordingly. Let's get back some room here. Again, and then you can edit that at any time by clicking on the dots next to their level or in their profile when you need to move them on. So you can always access that, and of course every student has their own. Let's go back to the students list. And that's from students right here. And then we're going to create a group for them. And this is our first group. We will name them less than 80 P for pig. And what I'm doing here is I'm saying that this is a group of students who scored less than 80% on the P for pig concept. And you'll see why I did that later, and you'll see exactly what the intention is, but let's just put that in there like that for now. And let's do a second list or a group so that you can just see what that looks like. So create group, sounds review. Let's add them, and they get added automatically to your list right there. When you hover over their name, you can see more options for each of these. And then after you add students to a group, when you click on it, it filters down to that list. So let's do that right now. So we can give that a try by clicking on some names in our list, and you'll see an add to group button. And when you do that, you will be able to access either of those groups. So let's just, for fun, see what happens when we do that. We add them, and then we go to the group itself, and you will see them listed. So we're going to be doing a few things with this later, so I'm going to remove them right away. And you can do that by hovering over the red icon with the minus sign over it, and it will ask you to confirm. And that's how you remove each of your students from a group. We can start our assessments now to start grouping our students. So let's go to Tyler, and let's do a name letters lower assessment for Tyler where they score less than 70%. So we should be in foundational skills. You should be able to see, and we have name letters capital and lower, so we're going to do lower. And here you can just begin the assessment, but this screen will be their progress monitoring screen, as it says here. Here's our assessment. I'm going to take the shortcut and do autofill and then just go in and mark until we are under 70%. You can see your score over here as your live marking thing, so we can make sure that we are definitely not at mastery. There we go. So we're under 70% now. I'll save this. And then we'll have our breakdown with the actual responses recorded and what was marked correctly and incorrectly. Then we're going to assess again by going to the Assessments tab. We want to do name letters lower again, and we're going to score him for above 80% so that we can properly progress monitor and see what that looks like. So let's reassess. Let's have Tyler get 100% on this, perfect score, and you'll see that in the graph here, and where we'll see in his list, there's 2 attempts because we've assessed this twice, and this is the newest score. So this is what this column does, is it shows the latest score. When we go look at the actual assessment itself in the progress monitoring screen, you will see the actual graph that charts the progress that Tyler has made on his naming letters, and then you will see listed below here each attempt, their timestamp, and when you did it, options to edit that if you had a misinput, and the result summary, which is that graph that we saw earlier. We can go back and look at that. Scoot us back to the previous screen, and then what you'll notice here is that the score is color-coded for mastery, which is 80% in our scope and sequence. So for scoring less than 80%, this is coded red, and for scoring better than 80% or mastering, there is a green color coding. So watch out for that. That is available in every assessment for student and class level. And speaking of class level, let's perform a whole class assessment, which is brand new to imse. So we're going to go to assessments. Let's pick initial sounds lower, so this one. And we're going to assess everybody but Tyler. And then we're going to give a score of random for the rest of the students, but with 2 doing better than 80% at least. And how we do that is we go to the assessment itself. We click add scores. If it's a brand new assessment with no scores in it, you'll see this add scores button, but this add scores button on the top right will always be available. And this will send you to a mass bulk scoring system with the students' names on the top and the responses in the assessment itself along the left, and their live score on the bottom as you go. So what did we say? We said we want to score everybody but Tyler, and we want at least 2 students that are doing better than 80%. So I'm going to just skip him, and what you do here is you enter C or I for correct, incorrect, or whatever the assessment dictates. So we'll just give you. So we've got 2 students with 60%, we've got 2 students with 100%. That's a good balance of mastered to unmastered for the demo. And then we have Tyler having nothing. And while we're doing that, we're going to save that. You'll see that Tyler has nothing. And then when we go back to the overview tab, we have a chart of all of the students' performance here with Tyler at the 0%. And then we'll see here, we've got those 2 60%, we've got the 2 100%. And the reason why we can do this is we're going to reassess everyone again. Or actually, let's do that. I'm going to do my best to have them back at mastered and unmastered. So let's have this student master. Let's have this student not master, so that we've got an even spread. So we've got 2 60% again, and then Tyler is taking this assessment for the first time, so let's save that. And then we have a chart here that's read-only. Can't click on that or anything. This is just to view the scores, view the breakdown, see some differences. If you have some concerns for your class on a certain response, you'll see, reds in a column or a row that kind of informs what you need to do and how to instruct and what to work on. So when you go back to overview, you will see here that we have attempted or reassessed each student at least once. So they have two attempts in the attempts column, and then Tyler has the 1. And what that means is that you can keep filling out this add scores bulk editor for not the entire class if you don't want to, but when you don't provide anything, it just doesn't update them, right? So I'm going to go in and I'm going to catch Tyler up and give him a second assessment, and you'll see that that doesn't change anything for everybody, even though we're not adding any scores here. So let's do this for Tyler and save him, and what should happen is he has a second attempt and everybody else's attempts are what they were. So He's caught up, 2 attempts, 100%, and everybody else's is just fine. So just adding one student's score in the bulk editor does not overwrite everyone else's or give them a 0%. It may seem that way, but it's just filling out whoever you fill out, right? So that allows you to fill out anybody who was absent or missed something or anything like that. If you had 2 or 3 students that were absent, you can enter their scores all together and things like that without messing with anybody else's previous assessments. Now we're going to go to weekly assessment. So let's create a weekly assessment, and you do that by going to assessments, and then in any benchmark at all and in any level you'll see weekly assessments at the bottom. So we'll see that for your midterm, we'll see that for your final. It should be there all together. It works a little differently than these other assessments because you can have multiple weekly assessments, and of course you're creating them, so they'll be listed a little differently. We will go to add new, and then we'll pick an early concept so that there's not a whole lot going on. So we're going to do 13 P for pig. That's what we wanted to group by. We'll quickly go through this. Choose any words you want. Choosing a concept filters down the words to the words for that concept, but red words are available all the time. And we've got that, and remember you have a teacher sheet that also comes with that with the answer key that you can access. We're going to hit save, and then that is our assessment for P for pig. Our options from here are we can look at the class results for this, we can duplicate this or delete it, and what we're going to do is we're going to use that whole class scoring system again for this, and we'll do random with at least 3 students scoring above 70%. So remember that. And thank goodness for this sheet. We will go here, we will go to scores, we will add scores, and then we're saying random with at least 3 above 70%. So I'm gonna do a few that are way under just to get us a nice spread. We can autofill on this. And then let's have some students be way under. All right, so we have a student here at 66%, not mastered, and the rest of these are mastered. We'll save this. And what we can do now, when we go back to our overview screen, is we can see mastered and unmastered. We can sort, and then with that cutoff point being 80%, what we can do is select the students that fall under mastery, group them. And we're going to do under 80 for P for pig, and that's those 2 students. And now we can go back to our students tab, and then we can go to the group under 80 for P for pig, view that. And there are the students that we just grouped, right? So there they are. That was what we just marked off of the assessment screen, and what we can do now that we've created a weekly assessment is we can progress monitor these particular students against their scores for a weekly assessment. Now you don't have to do that. You can group students for any reason at all. If they're in the class and they just work really well together, or you want to group these students for reading purposes or anything like that, you do not have to select an assessment just for groups to work. This is a great way to just keep tabs on the groups that you have and give them names and do whatever you need to do. But we, for launch, have the ability to group students, differentiate them, make weekly assessments just for them, and keep assessing them until they are ready to leave and be grouped or removed from the group. So we're going to select a weekly assessment. They were here just because P for pig. And what this does is it's going to fill in their graph, and it's going to show their scores under here, their attempts, and of course where they're at. And what you do is you just keep assessing and reassessing until the student does not follow, under the parameters that you made for the class. So let's actually, there's a shortcut. I'm taking the long way for no really good reason, but when you click on the student roster underneath a group, your options on the right allow you to assess right away. It allows you to look at their own progress monitoring or take them out of the group. So let's just assess Stephanie, and let's have her pass this one with flying colors. And if we go back to our group, to P for Pig, she's mastered and she's ready to leave this particular group, so we can just remove her. We can actually go to each student's profile, and their groups will be listed below. So Amber is still in that P for Pig group. And if you have more groups, you can remove her from here as well. This is very good to show, interventionists or parents or whoever that they are in these groups. We're working with them doing this. These are our goals for this student, and this is what we will be working on. So that's a really great way to know what this student is doing in the class and what they need based on what groups you've put them in. So that's available from every student's profile. You can continue to add them and remove them on the fly from their profile. You do not have to be on the student screen to do that, and then that is a great snapshot of what's going on with the student's instruction. And now that we've performed assessments, we can go on to Lesson Builder. We can differentiate these students further by actually creating a lesson for them. So that's under Lessons. I'm gonna add a new lesson by clicking this button. We'll name this, what do we have as the name for this? P for Pig Practice. I'll just copy that straight out. This is concept 13P for Pig. And what we want to do is on Monday, let's do a 3-part drill and a letter formation. And then we can switch to Tuesday, which is on the top, along the top here. So Tuesday we want to do red words. So I'm going to go back in and customize these materials really quickly. I know this is for P, actually. I should try, shouldn't I? So there's P. And then for Tuesday, we're going to do some red words that they need to work on. When you save it, you'll be kicked back to the list so that you know that you saved it correctly. And we'll go in here. There's our 3-part drill and our letter formation, and there is our red words. So that is a lesson that we have made for the students. What you can also do is create a material in My Materials, and we can do the same thing, 3-part drill. Add new from the top, 3-part drill, and we can do the same thing. And we can name that. Let's name that what we have in our sheet. Save that, and that'll be available, and you can open that and view it and print it whenever you need to. And the point of this is that, say that you are using the same material for multiple groups but not the whole class, or you have a template that you like to use, or something that just lives outside of a lesson that you are using often, and you just need to run to it and print it without having to go through the whole print process that's in lesson library and make a whole lesson and name it and all that stuff. Or, I could really see somebody just making a blank and just saving that so that you can come in here and just print that out as well. That is totally a scenario that I could see happening. And it means you don't have to do a full-fledged lesson for everything that you do in the classroom, and that you can refer to and share the same materials over and over, or that you have this quick reference that you use year over year and things like that. So remember that you not only have the ability to customize materials from a lesson standpoint, but you can also do them on their own. You might remember being able to do that in IOG if that's where you're coming from. And now we're going to head to Lesson Library. I'm going to just make sure that we didn't forget anything. So if we head over to Lesson Library, if you don't need to necessarily do a lesson builder experience, you can come and get pre-mades out of Lesson Library. And again, This is set by your course. If you don't have morphology training, this will be unchecked and disabled and you won't be able to click it. But what this does is this changes our number of concepts available, the number of levels that we have materials for. You can use the search bar to search for your concepts as needed. So we were just working on P. So there's P for pig, and we can go in here and get what we need out of here. So if we need to work on their letter formation, here are their pre-mades and here are their videos that allow them to learn more about what we were doing in our lessons. So lesson library is pretty straightforward. A new part of it is that you can favorite materials. So let's go back to P for pig. Say I do want to do letter formation and I want to be able to access it really quickly. You can click on the heart on the top there, and where you go is to my materials, to the favorites tab, and there's your letter formation for P for pig. It's a good way to remind yourself, hey, I need to maybe print that out, or I just need to quick reference that, or it's something that I'm going to be revisiting really often and I don't feel like doing all of that searching and that, the clicking around. There it is right there for you when you need it. And then finally, now that we've actually done everything that has kind of some special conditions in lab, and that we've walked through, how to group, what conditions are needed for grouping, what conditions and assessments leads to grouping and intervention, there's additional resources also available in lab. Implementation Hub has been brought into lab for users coming from IOG. You may remember that OG support and Morph support lived outside. A lot of people didn't remember those URLs or anything like that and had to bookmark them, but now it's right here. It's in Implementation Hub, and when you come here, you'll see articles based on your training once again. So if you do not have morphology, it'll just tell you, hey, learn more about morphology, but we're able to see both. And what you can do in here is explore topics. We've got videos, we've got articles for everything, organized by if it's an implementation guide or a component and things like that. There's also support for lab itself in here. So if you are new to using lab on its own, we have tutorials on how to do basically everything I just talked about. If you have a particular section that you're struggling with or need a video and some writing on, there are videos, and there's a step-by-step written guide for each of the major components inside of lab. So if you ever need it, again, Implementation Hub, you can travel here from the Get Help section too. This is specifically for lab support, and then the Help Center is up here as well as this question mark. So help is available everywhere. You will also see in places like assessments underneath your tools, you'll see a need help if you don't know what you're doing, or if you're new to this, or say we go to a student and we go to their reports, you will see need help here as well. And what we didn't talk a whole lot about is reporting. So that is a section that you might want to take a look at in the Implementation Hub. But really quickly here, I believe one of the only students that we've assessed more than once, and there's an assessment count up here with the number of mastered written right next to it. Because Tyler has several assessments that he's taken more than once, we can actually pull a progress monitoring report. So let's do that really quickly. So he's done an initial sounds in foundational skills twice, so that's one we can look at. So we can check on that by going to assessments, looking at the grid here and seeing what assessments have been taken and how many times. So let's do initial sounds. We want to progress monitor this, and then we want to do initial sounds. And then here is your, not only is this a grid that lets you see what the scores are, but it lets you see the individual answers as well. I believe Tyler may have done a name letters, if I remember correctly. So you'll see here a better example, because it shows some wrong answers as well, 18 out of 26, 26 out of 26 with a trend graph. So Different from the overview that you have from Tyler's assessments tab, you are able to see the actual answers broken down for you. So if he took this 5 or 6 times and he's repeatedly getting S wrong, that's a way to kind of let ourselves know, hey, we really need to work on that. Hey, this is a repeat issue. And it tells us how to differentiate him from there. So if we were to take a look at the exact same thing from the overview, here's the same trend graph, but this just tells you which assessments he's done, how he's been reassessed, when he's been reassessed, and what those scores are. But that breakdown of exactly the comparison between the answers is available in reports under progress monitoring only. So it's just a deeper look at it. It's more detail if you want it in a reports view, and that's exportable through PDF as well if you need to have it in a physical copy or something to review with somebody outside of the lab environment. So one of the things that we can do now that we've set up the demo that you can also play with. But yes, there are many opportunities to get help. One is from the logo at the top. This is your lab home, and what this is a collection of, we will update this with helpful hints, what's going on in lab itself, and for now, the all-important what's new and updates, where we will track upcoming rollouts, new features, improvements, fixes, and things like that. For now on launch, you will see videos that'll walk you through and some links that'll get you to your through your day one. So we have a what's new in imse lab article, especially for IOG 2.0 users who are making the transition. We've written out everything here that has changed, especially if you don't have the new teacher guide just yet. This is an outline of everything to expect and what we've renamed certain things to, and how to make that transition seamless for yourself, and the major changes. Things like beginning readers, foundational skills, which you might have seen earlier in the class selection tool, but that's a big change. So again, Implementation Hub is your friend. Go to the Help Center if everything you need. You can even come in here and do a search, and we will be able to see everything that we need to see. Creating classes, exactly what I'm looking for in that search query, and then there's your video and your help tools. So of course this video is also available so that you can follow through and set up your own classes and do everything that I just did. So have the PDF with you, follow along, keep this class or archive it. Now that I'm done with it, we can go here, open up the secondary menu. We're done with our demo. We can archive that and put that away. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to our customer service, or click on this red tab anywhere that you are in the application and send us your feedback or your questions. So thank you so much, and happy labbing.